The Hundred Years' War on Palestine: A History of Settler Colonial Conquest and Resistance by Rashid Khalidi. I'm sure you are well acquainted with the situation that's going on in Palestine currently at the moment, and you might have heard about the Balfour Declaration. Now, in this video, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. What is the Balfour Declaration? When did it happen? Why did it happen? Who made it happen? What were the motivations behind it? And what was the basic function that this declaration was supposed to serve? On the 2nd of November 1917, uh, Arthur James Balfour, who was the Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, he made a statement that changed the course of history for the people of Palestine, like in a way that was never done before. I'm going to read the exact verbatim of that statement, and then I'm going to break it down what it actually means. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine for a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and the religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. So these were the famous words that were spoken by Balfour, and these are a very interesting mix of words, because if you read it and if you listen to it, it sounds very diplomatic. Like it represents itself in a fashion where you see, oh, okay, they're talking about the rights of non Jewish people, and, no prejudice is going to happen, nothing bad is going to happen, a fair proposition is being made, right? So it all sounds diplomatic, friendly, and rational. But that's far from the truth. If you sort of dissect this message, like it's coded, right? So you have to encrypt it, or I don't know, whatever word is used for that. We're gonna have to decode it. So let's take a look at it, right? If you notice, Arabs are not mentioned, and the Palestinian nationality isn't mentioned, and they talk about civil and religious rights, but political and national rights are not mentioned for the indigenous people of Palestine. And there's another very interesting thing in this statement, that is the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. Like, what is that supposed to mean? So, I mean, the people who are native to Palestine have been living there for years and years on end. Muslims, Christians, and Jews living under the Ottoman Empire, coexisting peacefully. And now there comes a new entity that's just suddenly telling you that they're going to make a Jewish homeland. And they're not even mentioning you. They have completely ignored that you even exist. And it's as if like that they are telling you, like they are the ones who hold power and who call the shots. Like they're coming to your home and they're telling you that, okay, like we're gonna, revamp this whole place, and we're gonna build a new state, and you might get some rights from it. And I mean, like, this has colonial undertones, and it's very obvious that, I mean, it's a very sinister proposition. It's not here to favor the people who already live there. I mean, think about it. They're just living there. They have their places, their culture, their houses, generations worth of families that have settled down. They have their businesses, etc. And I mean, they're existing like it's a people, like it's a land with people, with a culture, with the whole lifestyle. And none of that is being taken into account. So this is like a very shady sort of a declaration that was made. I mean, if you consider the population, uh, Arabs made 94% of the population of Palestine, and the Jewish population was only 6%. So the declaration further doesn't make any sense if you really do think about it. So, what basically was going to happen because of this new declaration, I don't know what other word to use for it, was that Jewish immigration would open up, right? An influx of Jews would enter the land of Palestine, and they will buy land and they will build their settlements and they will bring their businesses here and they will start settling on the land of Palestine. And this is where their Jewish state is going, their homeland is going to be made. Meanwhile, all of this was happening and it was initiating. The worst thing that happened to the people who were native to that land was that the British Empire, they banned any source of news, journalism, or information that could reach to those people because they wanted to make sure that the people native to that land, they don't protest, that they don't mobilize themselves or retaliate against this. So for 2 years, the native people, they were kept in the dark. They had no idea what the hell was even going on. Like all of the Jewish immigration coming in, the lands being bought and the settlements being made and the arrangements for their displacements being made, right? So like this was how the declaration was put into action, how the change was going to be made, and how a state was going to be developed on a land where people already existed. So the slogan went, a land without people for a people without land. Like the whole rhetoric behind this Zionist movement was that, they made it so they made it very clear that this is a land where nobody lives, like it has no culture, it has no natives, it's a barren land, there's nothing here, just some transient Arab people who are nomads, right, who just pass by, like nobody lives here, nobody exists here, and the people who are going to settle here, they're going to bring their culture, their business enterprise, and they're going to make this place better, right? And Theodore Herzl, who was the founding father of modern Zionism, interestingly, let's talk about 1899, about Theodore Herzl, the letter that he received from Rashid Khalidi's great, great, great uncle, Yusuf Dia. Yusuf Dia was a man he was a very competent and intelligent man. He was the mayor of Jerusalem. He had a higher education. He broke traditions, left his country, and acquired Western education, right? This was a very well acquainted man who had his hands in politics, and he had been around people, he had seen things, he had understood things in a way that most people hadn't. And he had great foresight. He was aware of Herzl and his Zionist ideology, and he was becoming suspicious of it because word was going around that Palestine is being targeted. Like they are going to take land from here and build a Jewish homeland. And he grew concerned. Look, this was a time where the Zionist movement was like its sinister intentions were not that clear. So this was the first individual who actually saw through it, Yusuf Dia, and he wrote a letter to him. The summary of the letter was that, you know what, Theodore Herzl, like this is a land that has indigenous people. Palestine is an important part of the Ottoman Empire. It has Muslims and Jews and Christians living together. And if you try to take over this land and impose your own ideology onto it and try to make it into a Jewish homeland, it's going to cause contention and many problems between the people who already exist there. Like, I mean, he's just politely, telling him, like, this is a very bad idea and, you should not be doing this. And Herzl actually replied to him on the 19th of March, and this is very interesting. This is like the first official proper interaction between a Zionist and a Palestinian. And there's a pervasive, like, there's a recurrent pattern that has persisted throughout history where the Zionist people, the Zionist body has completely neglected, ignored the existence of the indigenous people of Palestine. And even in this reply, Herzl completely, like, he just ignored everything that Dia had written in the letter. And he simply stated that, we're going to bring, uh, like, I'm just going to read what he said. It is their well being, their individual wealth, which will increase by bringing in our own. And he wrote a book, I think it was called Der Judenstaat, in which he said, in allowing immigration to a number of Jews, bringing their intelligence, their financial acumen, and their means of enterprise to the country, no one can doubt that the well being of the entire country would be the happy result. So, this was the main Zionist colonial argument for occupation, basically. And always remember, the colonizer, what he does is that he always has a superior stance. Like, he's going to the region of an uncivilized brute, and then he's going to educate him, and then he's going to bring progress and prosperity toward him. Like, he's going to civilize that brute. And I mean, if somebody is saying that to you, they've already taken a position where they think they're ideologically, intellectually, economically, politically, religion wise, they are superior than you, they are better than you. So the chances are they're going to subjugate you. Chances are they're going to treat you like a second class citizen on your own land, which definitely is not a good thing. And you have to, like, you just notice the semantics, just notice the kind of flowery language that these people use to, I mean, this is so manipulative. Like, even like, Herzl also used this term in his writing, the highest tolerance with full rights for all, like, what the hell are they talking about? So, I mean, they use this sort of language to convey that, they are the civilized, peaceful, diplomatic, loving people who are bringing all these rights and equality and whatnot, when in reality, they're doing the exact opposite. Now, why did this declaration take place in the first place? Why was the British Crown so adamant in supporting the Zionist project, which was a vision and an imagination at a certain point? Because Theodore Herzl did not have the financial means, they did not have a powerful military or a country backing them up. Now they had it. And you really have to understand what the actual motivations behind this whole ordeal were. So it was the time of the First World War. You had the British Empire, you had the French Empire, and you had the Russian Empire. I think Russia was, in some what way, it was also involved. But basically, you had these powers on one side, and you had Germany, Bulgaria, Austria, the like, etc., on the other side. And you also had the Ottoman Empire, which Palestine was under. They were under the Ottoman Empire. And when Britain was fighting against the Ottoman, at that time, during that war, they had struck a secret deal with the French Empire called the Skies, uh, the Skies Picot or Picot Agreement. I'm not sure about the pronunciation, but the gist of that was that they were going to divide Middle East among themselves, like some borders. Here are some countries for you. Here are some countries for me, right? That was the deal. And at the same time, he had also made a deal with Arab nations. Sharif Hussein, particularly, like who started the Arab Revolt. And basically, what Britain did was that they said that we are going to give you your independence, your own nationality. And if you join us and fight with us against the Ottoman Empire. So these two contradicting deals were made by the British Crown. On one part, they're saying that they're going to divide the Arab states, and on the other part, they're saying to the Arabs that we're going to give you independence if you fight amongst us, right? And one of the states that was being given away to the French Empire was Palestine. Now, Palestine had geopolitical significance to the British Crown, especially during the war, because it was a major transit route for them from India to Palestine. And also the fact that these were competing empires, right? So they did not want to give away their power, give away this land and state to the French Empire. Now, because they made two contradictory promises and deals, somehow, after the war ended, they had to justify why still they're occupying Palestine, why they aren't leaving, why they aren't, dividing this land as per the deal, and why they aren't giving freedom to the Arab revolutionists. So, the way they went about it was that they supported the Zionist project. By doing so, they garnered support from all of the Zionist people, politicians, and businessmen living in Russia and America. This way, both of these big countries would stay in the war and support the Britain politically, economically, financially, in whatever way they needed. ठीक है? Right? And secondly, it would create a sort of a conflict. I mean, it would make the people in Palestine dependent on the British Crown, and it would create some form of a conflict between the Jews and the Arab Muslims living there that the British now had to resolve. So now they have an excuse to stay there, basically, to occupy and colonize the land of Palestine. It was not a conflict, of course, because we know that the people, the native population living there, was being displaced and oppressed, and they were being replaced by a different people, and their land was being stolen, and their whole existence was erased. Like they did not even exist. Politicians and writers, they emphasized this message that there are no people on Palestine, like Palestinians don't exist. And eventually they succeeded in this declaration, and Jewish immigration was opened to the point that they started becoming more powerful in their numbers and started occupying more land and started with the narrative that was always in their favor, and the people of Palestine were eradicated from existence. So lots of events, of course, happened after it, especially after World War One, when Arab nationalism became very prominent, when Palestinian self-determination and nationalism also came into the picture. The world was changing and transforming and moving away from European colonialism because the world was fed up, especially the Arab states that were being occupied. The rest of the Arab states, they got their freedom. However, with Palestine, it was a different situation. After the British Empire fell, The Zionist movement, they labeled themselves as an anti-colonial movement. Like they advertised themselves in a way that they don't bear any association with the colonialists and the colonizers, and like they are the good guys. They did not want sympathy to go away from, Zionism. They did not want it to go away from the Jews, especially with the anti Semitism that was happening. So they were sort of using that to their advantage. So the rest of the world was freed somewhat from colonialism, but Palestine was the only state that wasn't freed, and their whole narrative, their voices, their freedom, their land, everything was taken away from them. So, this was, I wanted to make it a brief account, but this turned out to be a bigger audio than I expected it to be. But I really hope you learned something from it. I highly recommend that you read the book written by Rashid Khalidi, because you have to stay updated, you have to stay connected, and you cannot connect to a people if you don't know their story. And Rashid Khalidi gives not only an academic but a first person account of his personal encounters in Palestine and the generations of his family before him who lived on this land, and the struggles that they went through. So this is an amazing account of the history of Palestine. uh, thank you for listening. I will try to make another video, an audio, whatever, about a different book I read, and I'll try to continue this one. For now, goodbye.